Morning, Willie, or good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Just going back after watching the game, Willie, I know you mentioned that some things you wanted to improve on, clean up. What did you see from maybe going back and looking at the film?
One of the things we want to do is a better job on the sideline. I thought we were okay down there, but, wanted to be more organized and be where they're supposed to be at, everybody into the ball game the whole time. Sometimes difficult that first game because you're freshmen, they've never stood on the sideline during a game, so it's different for them. But we'll get better at that. And then I thought offensively, we just, we put ourselves behind the eight ball a few times where we had opportunities to, score points, and we either had a minus play or we had a bust. We talk all the time about the Cougs don't beat the Cougs. We had that happen a few times on a Thursday night. Defensively, there's not much to complain about. We tackled really well for a first ball game, and we work on that a bunch. Probably the one area we were a little disappointed in was we probably had a chance to have 5 or 6 takeaways and, dropped some balls and didn't recover a few fumbles that we could have recovered. Okay in the kicking game. We can play better in that area as well. We had one kick to cover, and I think we got them down to 24. Punt coverage was good except for one, and we allowed them we lost leverage, and they got a big return on us. So there's a lot of room for improvement.
Willie, what are the biggest challenges of facing Rice's triple option, and have you looked at Davidson tape as well? How do you
we've watched a bunch of Davidson tape. When I was the head coach at Sam Houston State back in 2010, we put that in, and we were one of the first teams to run the spread, gun, triple option, and we won a lot of games with it. And then we went over to Georgia Southern. We did the same thing, and I would have done it at Tulane. We just couldn't find quarterbacks to do it. But yeah, Coach Abel's got a fantastic system. They've run for a lot of yards over the years at Davidson. They did a really nice job on Saturday against Louisiana, and it's something that we're working on. Worked a little bit on it during preseason camp, and had an opportunity to work on it a lot today because of playing that Thursday game. We didn't have to, we were able to watch, the SFA tape on Friday.
Coach, having experienced it last year, what are your thoughts on the Bayou Bucket, what it means to you and the guys in that locker room?
Well, it's the city of Houston, and we're I know Rice and our squad are very proud to represent the city of Houston. So it's a big game for bragging rights for both teams. Almost tripped there, Fletcher. Good feet, though.
Coach, going back to Thursday, you guys tried out a handful of backs, a handful of O-line combinations. Just how close are you guys to figuring out your identity on offense if it hasn't been figured out yet?
We're getting closer. Our backs. I thought there were some really good things out of a bunch of guys, and we had a few busts. Whether it's pass protection or blocking the right guy on the perimeter or whatever the case may be. You got to show that talent level, but you also got to, be solid in your assignments. And we had some difficulties with that. And, I talked to a couple of the guys today and told them, you want to play more. Don't bust during practice and don't bust on Saturday at the game. But we had some good play with the backs.
Willie, how do you think Kobe Young looked in his first game back in a while? And you guys tried to hit him deep a few times. How do you think he looked overall?
I'm sure he'd like to have a couple of those situations back. He had a post that he ran too much over the middle of the field. That might have, first play of the game, I think it was. But there's a lot of guys that were playing their first game in a long time, and a lot of guys that are playing their first game for the University of Houston. So that's a big part in preseason camp, being careful about how much contact that you have, so that you keep the guys healthy. We're relatively healthy. We got out of that game pretty darn healthy, and now we got a game under our belts, and I think that's going to help us these next few weeks certainly going to help Kobe.
Willie, if I could go back to the running backs, with Rashawn now out, does that force you to maybe look at things differently, how you want to use guys, or is it still, kind of looking for that guy to sort of be the bell cow?
Not too much. It's not going to change us too much with what we're trying to do. We got some good competition amongst 4 backs now instead of 5, and those guys are going to get a chance to show what they can do. And the more you can do, the less mistakes you make, the more you get to play. Now that gives you a chance to carry the ball a little bit more. If you're in there 20 plays instead of 10. So that's what we're looking for out of all those guys, and we want them to make it a difficult decision on how much and who plays and how much.
Is it a little, I don't want to say unfair, but as far as what Jamarian can do, he's not just limited to short yardage. You feel like he's a guy that...
I thought he had some outstanding... That was a great catch. That was a part of his game that, he had to develop. He didn't do much of that in high school, and that was a great catch, great move. Down there he's got outstanding speed. He's 22-mile-an-hour GPS guy, and he's 215, 220. He lost a little weight from last year, which I think has been good for him. So, yeah, he's very talented.
Coach, I saw Tanner getting some work in today with the rest of the team. Do you expect any limitations for his game this week?
No, I think he's good to go. He got hit twice in a row, and that time the game was kind of, we felt good about everything, and we just went ahead and sent him out. But he's ready to go.
Hi, Coach. How do you prepare your players to play against the Houston's rivalry team?
Oh, I don't know how much you do things different. We're going to treat all the prep like a home game. We're going to stay in our same hotel where all the times are going to be the same. The only thing we're moving up is an hour with game time, and then also, leaving about 10 minutes earlier to get to the stadium than normal. So not too different. I played over there, I guess a couple times, maybe just once. Played over there one time when I was at Tulane. So I'm familiar with the stadium. So there's going to be a lot of similarities with playing a home game, but obviously we're playing at their place.
Coach, Connor Wegman had a good performance in his first game as a Cougar, 62 completed passes for 152 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also showed his legs a bit with his running ability. What do you think are some improvements that he could make to his game as the season progresses?
Yeah, he had a high completion percentage, like you said, and he just, it was the first game he'd played in quite a while. Last season he's banged up. He's healthy now. I think it was good for him to knock some of the rust off. I talked to him a little bit, and I read a little bit of his some different articles about it, and he felt like he needed to knock some rust off, and I think he did, and he'll play better this week also. But as I've said a million times before, the quarterback gets too much credit when things go well, and they get too much blame when things don't go well. We got to do a better job with protection. That's tight ends, that's offensive line, that's running backs. Got to do a better job of getting ourselves open and running good, crisp routes so that we can get open. And we got to run them at the depth and that we're supposed to be running them at. So there's a lot of corrections, and improvement we got to see with the quarterback, but all positions on the offensive side of the ball.
Willie, was your assessment of the offensive line about what you thought once you went back?
Yeah, I think we can play a lot better than what we played. We had, a little leaning and, a couple of pre-snap penalties we need to stay away from. We need to do we had some pressure on us, and, and the guy just kind of ran up the field and rushed. Wasn't any crazy move or anything, so we can play a lot better on the offensive line. I saw better play during preseason camp. Again, that's a little bit of first game jitters, and those guys will get better.
You played Alvin a little bit at right tackle as well, if I'm not mistaken. How does he fit in terms of what you'd like to see from him, being able to possibly, if needed, to move between those two spots?
Yeah, those 3 tackles, David Ndukwe, Dalton Merriman, and Alvin, those three guys, we'd like to get in a rotation where they're playing those two tackle spots, and then kind of see who the best two guys are, and they'll play the majority of snaps. Right now, it's kind of a toss-up. We got the same thing going on inside with Demetrius Hunter and Matthew Wyckoff, and Larry Crawford showed some good things. Also having McKenzie, Agnello in there playing, and so we're going to roll about 8 guys inside and figure out who are the guys we need to play the most.
Willie, what did you see in Amari Thomas when he was in the portal, and what made you guys target him?
Oh, he's an explosive player. He's got great speed, great movement. He's got some return ability as well, which you always want to have a guy who can do a few different things. And the thing I thought he's really improved on over the last few weeks is, he's quick to the tuck. One of the things about the difference between high school and college football is somebody's usually pretty close to you when you catch the ball. So you got to be quick to the tuck, and he really did a nice job of that, particularly on the touchdown pass from Connor. It was a really nice bullet throw by Connor, and he got it into his body quickly instead of holding it out for a split second longer, and the ball might have been knocked out then. So he's really improved in that facet of his game, and he elevated his play Thursday. He had a good camp, but played better than probably his camp was.
Willie, you inherited Jalen Garner last year, just to see where he's kind of come from, not getting as many reps because of who was in front of him to Thursday night. Have you seen a big change in just how he's been able to go out there?
Yeah, he had a nice game Thursday night. Had a good understanding of football. He's got good linebacker movement and understands the game and really studies the game. And played well. I thought he tackled well. I thought all our guys really tackled well. We had 8 missed tackles, and that is really a low number in your first game. But we work on that a bunch. We had very few lost leverage plays. Big plays occur when you lose leverage, and we only had a couple of those on Thursday night. So we're going to have to continue to keep doing a great job and even getting better in tackling effectively and also maintaining our leverage.
Going back after watching the SFA film, what do you think limited Stephon Johnson's targets?
Oh, sometimes it comes to you, and sometimes it doesn't. You just got to be ready when it does come to you. There's a few times we were trying to get the ball out there. We might have gone to the other side or whatever. It's going to happen and come for him. He just got to keep working hard. It's just part of it. It's sometimes the targets come in bunches, and sometimes there's not quite so many.
Coach, looking back at Thursday, what did you see out of Dean Connor's performance, and how have you seen him adjust to the program?
He's been really easy to coach. He does everything well. He runs inside well. He runs on the perimeter well. Catches the ball. He does a good job of pass protection, run blocking. He's an unselfish guy. He'll run block, and then the other thing too is he makes very, 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 very few mistakes. So he does everything well. That's a real positive trait.
Willie, on the tackling, have you found better ways you think to teach it over the years? Has it always been as much an emphasis for you as it is now?
Yeah, it's always been something. I completely and totally revamped how we tackled a few years back, 2014. We used to teach a guy put his chin on his chest, and it was real physical tackling. You didn't have many answers for a smaller guy tackling a big guy, and I want to give Pete Carroll a lot of credit on that. He totally changed how everybody tackles across the country, and really we've we're more of a rugby styling tackling team. We talk about cheek to cheek, with our cheek on the downstairs cheek of when we're tackling low. We work on low tackling a lot, using your arms, and then the cheek to peck, and we near foot and what we call the hula hoop, and the approach to tackling and how it's really more important than the actual tackling tackle itself. If you don't have a good approach to tackling, you're not going to make the tackle. You're not going to be in position to tackle. So we work on it over and over and over and over and over again. And one of the things I'm proud of is every place that I've gone and taken over, we've decreased our amount of missed tackles substantially. We did it last year. We were about, 17% less missed tackles in our first year from the year before. We did it at Tulane, we did it at Georgia Southern, we did it at Sam Houston State when I started doing this different type of tackling strategy. So it's, I have to give Coach Carroll a lot of credit. He had a guy on staff, I can't think of his name right now, but that guy really was the guy that kind of, did all the homework for Coach Carroll. But, I had to think about it for a long time. I remember I was, saw it. I watched the tape. I watched it again. I think I watched it 15 times before I decided, hey, I'm gonna change how we tackle, and it's safer too. We've had, we got, I do stats on everything, but we've had much less concussions since we switched how we tackle and take the head out of tackling, and it's smart. So.
Your first game with the new set of coordinators. How would you assess Slade Nagel and Austin Armstrong's performance?
I thought they both did an excellent job. We talked yesterday for about 20 minutes about how we can improve our press box to sideline communication, all the communication on the sideline, because you're right, we got a new group, and I also got a new special teams coordinator, Chris Couch, and so we want to improve our communication, how we do things on the sideline. But I thought they all three of them did an excellent job for game one, but we'll get better.
Did you like having just Slade in the box in terms of how the message got relayed down?
Yeah, I think we had three guys up there in the box on the offense. Obviously, the coordinator's up there in the box. He likes that vantage point. I think. It's and he does a good job of coaching from a distance in practice too, and most of the time from the side where he's going to be looking at it also, and then we do a lot of it. I think probably prior to game one he was up in the box maybe 6 times, so we got a lot of work on it prior to week one. Austin likes to be down the sideline, and he works from that vantage point during practice as well. So it's there's a lot, if you're going to be in the box, you got to have a lot of trust with the guys that are on the sideline for you. And if you're going to be on the sideline, you better have a lot of trust with the guys who are up in the box. So both vantage points are very, very important.
So you guys have an update on Corey Platt. He's on the depth chart, but I don't think he saw the field last week.
He was a little bit banged up, and we could have played him. We decided not to. But he's full go this week. We basically, one of the things about a Thursday game is we basically had 3 days off. So we had Friday, we came in, we lifted, we got treatment, we didn't practice, we watched the film, and then I gave the guys Saturday and Sunday off. That was our plan all along because we had a long camp. So everybody's a little frisky and fresh today, which they should be with 3 days off.
Willie, I think it's is it Fotu?
Yes.
Just his recruitment and getting him. Was there any ties or anything in terms of how you guys, went after him?
No, not really. We just liked to, his tape. He'd been on a mission. He's a little older. I'm not quite sure how old he is. How old is he? Do you know, Fletcher?
It's a 2-year mission.
Yeah, so I think he's 24, maybe 23. I'm not sure. But he's married, he's so a very, very mature young man, and we just liked everything that he did, and I actually talked to Coach Whittingham, and he didn't want him to go. That's important to me too. When they want him to go, that's not a good thing, So he was he's really a smart football player, and he's got good and speed and quickness, and I think he's only going to improve the more he plays.
Guy like that, does that mean something? I know he's a little bit older, but he's sort of, it's older.
Oh yeah,
18, 19-year-old.
we'd like all our guys to, be very mature. That's important for us. But he's, You know, you just got to, you know, you watch him and he's always paying attention. You know, he's one of those guys who can focus, concentrate for long periods of time, whether it's practice, meeting, whatever the case may be. When I get up in front, I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but I can kind of read body language, and he's always got really good body language, which I think is important. I tell him all the time, you get out in the workforce and you got bad body language, they do it, and you do it over and over again. They do a thing called fire. They fire you. You know, so you need to have good body language, and you know, he certainly does a great job of that. Anybody else?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.